How many lights are supposed to be on up there?
How
many lights are supposed to be on up there?
It's on.
Okay.
I can see you.
Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. Wiggins special board meeting will come to order. Today is March 23rd, 2020. The time now is 7:01. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
I forgot that sheet. I know.
Okay.
My apologies on that. Chris Sandoval.
Here.
Charles Rule.
Here.
Jeff Palmer absent. Bruce Miller.
Here.
Pat Musgrave. Here. Mark Strickland.
Here.
Mary McLeon.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Section 2, discussion and action items. First item is Police Department Interview Committee Hiring Recommendation. I take it, Jennifer, you will have the floor on this?
Yes.
Okay.
So first, thank you all for being here. I know it's been kind of hectic with the coronavirus and the other special meetings that you guys have, scheduled. So I appreciate all of you being here. I wish Jeff could have been here because he was part of the interview committee along with Charles. But I think I have a pretty good understanding on where he stands with the 3 that we interviewed. So just to kind of fill the rest of you in, we initially had 4 that we were going to interview. One was from out of state. That just means that he would have to challenge the certification for Colorado. It wouldn't take very long. He actually came down and rode with me. He flew in earlier the week before last. He has family here in Colorado. So he spent some time with them. He rode with me for about 4.5 hours on Thursday. And then called me Thursday evening and said with quarantine starting with the coronavirus, he asked to withdraw because he did not want to get stuck here if they canceled flights. So he did withdraw. So Friday we went ahead and interviewed 3. We interviewed 2 that are from this area in the neighboring county, and then we interviewed 1 from Park County. He was the undersheriff there for several years. So like I had mentioned, we had 2 different interview panels. The morning consisted of Stan, Brianna, Charles, and Jeff. and Craig Harris from the school. And then I kind of just sat in and took notes. I wasn't part of that interview board. The afternoon consisted, it was more of the professional panel, so it consisted of Sheriff Martin. Commander Crone from Fort Morgan PD had to withdraw last minute because they had a town meeting about the coronavirus. Burl Giffen, he's a sergeant with State Patrol, Lieutenant Hardy from Brush, and then myself. So we were all in agreement that one of the applicants had no desire to move here. He lives in Eaton, and I think we all feel the same way that you need to live closer to the community to be a chief here. So we went with the second and the third applicant, or the interview that we did. And of the interviews that Sheriff Martin has done before, they were on a scale basis. So he did not scale them as he was here, but he took his packet home of the questions, scaled them, and then emailed me back. So with the resume that you guys have, I'm just going to read the letter that Sheriff Martin sent me via email just regarding this applicant. He said that they were all arrived in a timely manner. Both Craig and the other applicant were both equally qualified and appear to have the qualification and desire to be part of the Wiggins community and serve in the capacity of chief of police. In evaluating the two candidates, I rated each section of the questions with a score of 1 through 5, 5 being the highest for each question. Using the scoring matrix, candidate Craig Miller scored 69 out of possible 75. So he was the highest scoring. With that, kind of the next step would be a background investigation, and Fort Morgan Police Department has offered to do that for us with no charge. They would use the same background investigation that they use for their department. So I thought it would be more thorough, you know, if an outside agency did that. That way there's no bias or anything like that. That was on Tuesday, I believe. Monday I talked to Jared, which is Commander Crone over at Fort Morgan. Early Tuesday morning, I spoke to another command officer. He's actually a chief for another agency who knew the other candidate that we were going to move forward with. I had some very unsettling information I received about him, so I just took that upon myself to withdraw him from the process because I don't think that the information I got we needed for this town or this department. It wasn't something that we could look past, in my opinion. So as of right now, I am just recommending that Craig be moved forward. He also emailed me. He was going to be here tonight, but just kind of with everything going on with the COVID, he has quarantined himself because he was traveling for his job. So just to be on the safe side, if you want to pass those around. You guys can read those. I'll give you those.
Sergeant Price, with that investigation or background check, is that a statewide or is that a nationwide?
So it's a nationwide. So they'll run basically a check on if he's ever lived anywhere. They'll see previous addresses. They'll contact employers, references, everything like that. They've even said that they would offer a CVSA, which is really close to what a polygraph is, if we thought that that was feasible or if we needed to. And again, that would be no charge to our agency. But they go pretty far in. They usually make house checks. They'll have a face-to-face interview with that person. They could even go check on his family if they have them listed. So with everything going on with COVID, obviously they're not going to do that. So they are going to do everything strictly over the phone or through email, but it'll still be thorough.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So while you guys are kind of looking over that, if you can look over his resume too, Craig came down and rode with me for several hours about 3 weeks ago. And then a few days later, he asked me that day if it would be okay with me if he came and rode with Doug. Because ultimately, Doug is going to be who he's going to be working with. Obviously, I was fine with that. He came and rode with Doug for several hours, and Doug also really likes him. He said that he's very approachable. And then in his resume, you can see that he lives in LaSalle right now, which is a smaller community. He, is active in his community. He volunteers, and he would do the same with here in Wiggins. So before I kind of get into my other points, Charlie, since you're here and you were part of the interview process, what do you think? What were your...
Well, I was, impressed with his answers and what he's had to bring forward. And I guess one thing I needed to know too is, was he still planning on keeping his residence in LaSalle, or was he going to look at possibly moving here?
So he is going to look into moving here, but of course it's not going to be overnight.
Right.
His wife is a teacher in Evans. So they haven't had that conversation in depth yet. If they move here, if she'll commute or if she'll try getting on maybe here in Wiggins or Waldona or even Fort Morgan. So they do need to have that discussion, but he has every intention on being part of this community.
Okay, that was just one of my concerns, but other than that, I thought he was a good candidate. And
Yep.
So, yeah.
Another thing that he had mentioned too was that he would like to get maybe like if he were to get hired, he would like maybe a meet and greet, not only with the board but with the town, so the town can meet him as a person, find out what the town expects of the police department, especially since we do have a lot of people in Kiowa Park that have come from bigger cities. I don't think they're used to being a part-time police department where they don't have full-time coverage. So a lot of that stuff needs to be explained to them. If we only do have 2 full-time officers, what that looks like for everybody,
Right.
Expectations, things like that. So that was, kind of what impressed me is that he would like to meet with the citizens and see what their perspective is, what their wants, what their needs, and what their expectations are of the police department.
Like this meet and greet, was it just like a special day or something? Or
Yeah, I mean, we could set a day.
Was wages discussed?
So we did briefly discuss wages. I'll actually pull it up. I didn't think it was my place to say what the wage could be, but I think in the 70 to 72 range, kind of what we had previously discussed, would be acceptable. And that is depending on if they're going to buy a house here and not take the farmhouse. It would all just depend on kind of his residency too. So.
Stan, have we gotten verification that farmhouse is vacant?
It is.
It is.
Well, within the next week, it'll be vacant.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And I'm not, I don't expect you guys to read every word on his resume, but one of the things that I really like about Craig is he has the knowledge and experience to make this a successful department. I mean, the town and the department itself is growing. We do need somebody with that knowledge that can do budgets, that can write policy. We have Lexipol now. I have not touched it because I think that needs to be for the chief to come in and just build. But some of those policies are going to have to be tweaked a little bit to fit our agency. We need somebody who knows what they're doing in order, to come in and do that, to where this department's safe if, we were to get, in a shooting or use of force or a pursuit, something like that.
Well, I like his education. That
He
means
has-
a lot, yeah.
Right. He has a master in leadership.
That's what I mean. That
So-
means a lot.
I really wish he could have been here tonight so you guys could meet him because I think you would all really like him.
Through the interview process, he expressed that he knows the challenges of a small department and how much effort and work it takes to make it work
Right.
because of the limited amount of personnel that they have available. And he said he was more than willing to step forward and work with that.
Right. And I can't remember if he said it in the interview, but he told me when he rode with me that Once he learned about this position, he actually went back several months and started watching our town meetings to kind of get familiar with the town, not only the police department, but with the town. He kind of touched on the water a little bit. I don't know anything about the water, so I did not engage in that. But, he actually did his research. He didn't just apply because the position was open. He did his research before he really put in for this, because he didn't apply until later, until the job had been posted for a while. So that means a lot too, that he's doing his research. He's not just applying for a job. And then he has talked to his wife also, because if he were to take the job or get offered the job, he knows that he's going to have to be here a lot in the beginning. And his wife is fine with that. So. Another thing I kind of want to mention, it wasn't said during the interview, but I spoke with one of the command staff that was on the afternoon interview afterwards, and he could not stress enough that this county works very close together, department-wise. And when we get a bad leader or a bad chief, it's not just the town and the department that suffers, the whole county really suffers. Because if we don't have that relationship, it's not them suffering, it's the officers, because we're the officers are the ones out there working. There used to be a chief in another jurisdiction that wouldn't let his officers go and cover anybody if it was outside of town. Mm-hmm. So you could have an officer a mile outside of town getting into shooting, and he wouldn't allow his officers to step foot basically outside of city limits. So we've come a long way. We all have a really good working relationship right now. And aside from our department and the town, I want to continue that with the rest of the command staff in the county and agencies. Craig came from Greeley. He has a ton of resources. Not only that, but he's worked with several other officers. He's been a sergeant. He's been in command. And he's had to work with agencies that surround Greeley too, because they all work close together. So. Do you have any comments since you were involved in that interview process in the morning?
Well, one of the things that we thought was real important was the fact that grants are available out there, and he has the resources and connections that might be available for us to be able to actually get money to bring on another officer, and also equipment. And he's really, really strong on getting good equipment for our staff. And also, I quizzed him about how he would handle an officer that came to him that had a problem, that had issues with a traffic stop or an accident or something like that. And he was, he encouraged me that he was willing to understand that they may need help, and that he's willing to talk to them. I was impressed with him. He was, if not my first choice, he was a strong second. So I felt he was a good candidate. And I think he's, I also asked him about, how is he going to handle the fact that there's only two of them, and I think he had a really good answer about, he puts the town first, and whatever it takes for him to be able to make it work. So I really thought he was a good candidate, in my opinion. I think he would work well. He's kind of a by the book kind of guy too, a little bit. I kind of got that feeling. Yeah. That it's, but I think he also has a heart. So it's not all writing tickets and carrying a heavy thumb. So I was impressed with him. So. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions that haven't met him or weren't involved in the hiring process? Any comments? No? Okay.
Just reading from the resume, he looks highly qualified for the position.
Yes. So one of the things that I talked to him about personally was, why does he want to come to a smaller agency when he came from Greeley.
Right.
Greeley's busy and they're a very large department. He retired, but he doesn't want to get out of law enforcement. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you've been in it for so long, once you're out, you miss it. Normal citizen life doesn't always work for everybody. So he would like to come back into law enforcement, but not to that extent. So that was one of the things that really appealed to him with Wiggins, was because we're just busy enough that would keep him occupied, but he doesn't have to worry about going call to call to call, managing, 50 officers or whatever. So I think that with us growing and just the call volume we have, he'd be very happy with it.
I think there was some questions asked about that in the interview, and that was kind of the impression I got from him too. Was what you just said.
Yeah. Couldn't remember if we talked about that in the interview or not. So,
Well, if you want to move forward, it's going to take a vote.
So
It's going to take a motion.
the next steps would be his background investigation, and then per state or per post, every officer has to have a current psych eval, and a medical exam, which is basically like, can you walk, can you talk, can you lift, can you breathe, whatever. Pretty simple. So I am asking for a motion to be approved that we offer him a conditional job offer, as long as he meets that criteria, that the background is successful, the psych eval is successful, and that the medical evaluation goes okay.
Some like other basic hiring tests. Is that like,
No, the background is,
well? So on conditions that he passes the other tests he needs to do.
yeah, so it would basically just be a job offer under these conditions that everything is passed.
Well, I move that we move forward for Craig J. Miller to move forward with the hiring process, with that he passes the other tests that need to be passed.
Okay. Are we able to reword that for a conditional job offer? So
Like
I would make a
conditions of-
motion to approve that we
That we move forward with Craig J. Miller on the conditions.
Offering a
Offered him
conditional job offer.
Job offer contingent upon passing the necessary tests.
To continue on the job offers and contingent that he passes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
I don't envy you because I
Quite wordy.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded that we offer Craig J. Miller the position contingent on
background.
contingent on the job offer that he can pass the
Background.
the two
Background, physical, medical.
background, physical, mental,
Or background, psych, and medical. I'm sorry.
background, psych, and medical. Okay. Got it? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Sandoval,
Yes.
Charles Rule,
Yes.
Jeff Palmer absent, Bruce Miller,
Yes.
Pat Musgrave,
Yes.
Mark Strickland,
Yes.
and Mayor McLeon.
Yes. Motion is hereby approved for conditional job offer. So, section 3. Is that all we need to cover on that?
I believe so. Just to touch on the salary, things like that. I'll go ahead and contact Fort Morgan first thing in the morning, have them get started on his background. And then I don't know if you guys want to maybe have another special meeting with him for salary, start date, things like that. I know that he would probably be available to start the first week of April.
How long will all this?
The background, with it only being him, they said they could get it done in a couple days probably, because they have one person specifically for background investigations.
What about the others?
The psych, whenever I can get them in here, we administer the psych. We send it off to the psychologist. It usually takes about 2-3 days. So
So
that would be right in the,
before the end of the month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is next week.
which is next week.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that if he was able to start the first week of April, that would be right in the time frame. Everything would be ready.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No.
All right. We'll go
Thank
ahead
you,
and
guys.
move on to,
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to section 3, resolution and ordinances. First one is a resolution 10-2020, a resolution declaring a local disaster emergency in and for the town of Wiggins. So with that being said,
Mayor and trustees, before you, the resolution, it is a, declaring the town of Wiggins, for a disaster. It is, I guess, poor choice of verbiage, but that's how they title it. And basically, it's just in essence that if the national government has any funding that they're going to give out to businesses and residents of and the town of Wiggins, that by going into a state of emergency, the town and the recipients in the town would potentially get that trickle down effect of the national funding.
I think there's several municipalities that have already done that in the areas.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 102020, a resolution declaring a local disaster emergency in and for the town of Wiggins.
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded, that we approve resolution number 10-2020, a resolution declaring a local disaster emergency in and for the town of Wiggins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chris Sandoval.
Yes.
Charles Rule.
Yes.
Jeff Palmer is absent. Bruce Miller.
Yes.
Pat Musgrave.
Yes.
Mark Strickland.
Yes.
Mayor McLeon.
Yes. Resolution 10-2020 is hereby approved. Okay, next item on the agenda is the resolution 11-2020, a resolution approving a policy regarding electronic participation in public meeting during emergency situations. Hope.
So, Mayor and trustees, this resolution is going to give the trustees the ability that if in the event the state, the nation goes into a lockdown, that we can still move government forward by having our meetings electronically. It can only be done, obviously, there's still statutes that you can't have more than 3 trustees, meeting at one time without it being posted in a proper manner within 24 hours. We would still go through that process. And the electronic meetings are only used in a state of emergency situations such as we are experiencing with COVID. This would allow us to, each of you, we would either use Zoom or Hangout or, Skype, whatever that may be, to convene all of the trustees onto one digital platform. I've been working with the sound system, so ideally I would probably be the only one in the boardroom with all of you coming in digitally, and then we would still YouTube our meetings, or at least record the meetings. We have to record and make that available to the public. Obviously, with the upcoming potential meetings of doing interviews and presentations, we have a multitude of other people coming in remotely for interviews or the presentation digital. It might make it a little difficult to YouTube stream live, but we would still make the recording available immediately after the meeting.
And this is only for emergencies only, right?
No, go ahead.
Only for emergencies only. And not even, oh my gosh, none of us can make it to the meeting. It's when we're experiencing the state of emergency that we're experiencing right now.
And it's not just by video. I noticed there too, also by telephone.
Say again, I'm sorry.
I know it's not just video. It looks like here is also by telephone.
Correct. You can do it by telephone. Obviously, it's going to have to be able to be recorded and heard. So just jumping on the phone and calling, say, the town phone isn't going to have to work. It's going to have to be a way that we can all conference together, which, we're working on, and it's very feasible.
Do you have Skype?
We have Skype. Actually, with all of your emails, we also have Hangout.
Skype
All
is
of your
good.
emails are linked with Hangout. And so there's that fashion as well.
Yeah, we use Skype. That's good. That's a good.
hmm There's a multitude of them out there to choose from.
Just a question, I guess, would be to the board. Is there any reason to not have an expiration?
No.
No? Okay.
Considering that inside of the resolution, it can only be used during certain times, it prevents you from being able to use it when it's not an emergency situation. So, like I said before, there's a state statute that that we're supposed to legally post when there's supposed to be, 3 or more gathering of, so even when it's Christmas time or 4th of July, we know that the Board of Trustees are going to be present. We're supposed to post that they're going to be all in the same, facility together. Another reason why, like with interview committees, we don't like to see more than 2 on there, so that it prevents us from having to post that as well. So this would be only in dire situations, and we have to post it on there that, hey, they're meeting, and this is how the method of that they're meeting at.
Okay. And I just want to make sure, because I looked at this, and I just want to make sure, because I didn't see it, this does exclude like executive sessions, because I don't think that should be on the computer.
It excludes, sorry.
Executive sessions.
The executive sessions are never public anyway.
Yeah,
I don't even.
I just thought I'd ask. I just thought I'd ask anyways, just
You could
because.
still have an executive session. It just wouldn't be recorded.
Right.
No, but you couldn't have it like this or on phone and that, because
Why?
I don't know if there's anybody, what if there's anybody listening around or something like that, who's to say
That's
so?
when you section yourself off.
No, I was just thinking though, like, to be sure nobody's around, because somebody could say they're sectioned off and then say, and not be true.
No, what I'm saying is that when you Skype in, it's its own little world anyway. And so if you don't have anybody, if you're going to be in a situation like that and it can't be heard, then you've got to go to a section in your house or something that you could Skype in, and just tell your family or can't be present.
And our tablets.
I don't know if your tablets are able to do that. Do we have a camera? They do.
Yes, they do.
So your
They
tablets
do.
can.
Because I'm thinking that we had done it at one time.
We did.
Yeah, when we first got them, the first year we got these.
So there you go.
So the only time that we would actually use something like this is like Denver and Boulder this afternoon just went into a lockdown. I think if it got that bad here, I think the only time that we would probably fall in place is if the governor come down with that ruling. Unless
Unless you've declared it a local emergency.
Yeah. So.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 11, 2020, a resolution approving a policy regarding electronic participation in public meetings during emergency situations.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that we approve resolution 11-2020, a resolution approving a policy regarding electronic participation in public meeting during emergency situations. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Sandoval,
Yes.
Charles Rule,
Yes.
Jeff Palmer, absent. Bruce Miller,
Yes.
Pat Musgrave,
Yes.
Mark Strickland,
Yes.
Mayor Mathleon.
Yes. Resolution 11-2020 is hereby approved. Okay. Anything else need to come before this meeting tonight?
Couple very short things, just an update on the elections. With the COVID virus, there's obviously a lot of concern about the upcoming elections. It is a very, very gray area, so the government doesn't see Governor Polis moving that out. State statute doesn't exactly allow it, and so we're trying to see what we can do to make it more convenient. Obviously, the upcoming election is supposed to be a polling area here, and we can still have it here. We're also updating the absentee ballot. The absentee ballot is used in any election. It's always been there and available. It'll just probably be used more this year than it has in the last 10 years combined. It should be available here in the near future on the website. Anybody can obtain it. They can fill out the application and get it back to us via, email. Take a picture of it, email it back to us, drop it in our utility box, scan it, email it back to us, or some fashion. The office is currently closed to the public. We don't have very many staff here, and we stay a good 6 feet apart, so the staff is still here. So we'll try to make that absentee ballot or absentee application as readily available to anybody. If you should choose to do so, then what we do is we'll get contact the person for the application and find out the best way to get the ballot to them. It'll be their responsibility to get it back to us. The latter half of that we're still working on as far as an election box that they can drop it off at. So stay tuned for instructions on the website for that. And obviously the polling place is here. If citizens want to do an absentee application, they cannot do both. So once they do the application and get a ballot, they cannot come in here and change their mind and do it here because they forgot to send it in or get it to us in some manner. Once they do the application and receive a ballot, they forfeit the right to come in here and vote in here. So they're going to have to choose how they want to vote. And that's as close as what we can do with substituting for a mail-in ballot, which is past that deadline. So we're working on that.
Quick question.
Sure.
Have you talked to your election judges?
I had all of them set up, and then I had 2 cancel this morning due to COVID. So we're working on that as well. And the state has given us some parameters, so we still have some time to recruit and go from there. And with the absentee ballots coming into play, there's a whole nother realm to that as far as verifying signatures, that are on the envelopes as well. So it puts another step into the election judges field as well. So there was one more thing and I forgot what it was going to be.
Sorry.
So currently the board had projected that Wednesday, March 25th would be when Monroe Peck came in, as well as potentially doing 2 interviews with interim town managers, as well as the GIS, which I've already spoken with Trustee Strickland to move that out to the end of April, I believe, or beginning of May.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important, but it's not so much so that it would take a lot of time to do that many presentations in one night. How does the board feel? Do they want to come in on Wednesday to do that presentation? And if Monroe wants to do it electronically, if the board is here, I should be able to stream him in electronically. If he's comfortable with coming in, I can certainly do it that way. It makes it easier if everybody's here for the streaming, live streaming. However, you do have an electronic resolution that just passed. There is the ability, if the board is uncomfortable about meeting here, obviously we put on Facebook and our website, for the public to please, respect the COVID and allow our numbers to stay thin, since obviously with all of you here, there's 7 already. How does the board feel about that? About meeting on Wednesday, or would you prefer to push everything back?
I'm okay with Wednesday.
Wednesday's all right with me.
Yeah.
Wednesday's good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anything else need to come before the board? If nothing else, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.
Do I just exit out or something?
Mhm.
Just exit out?
Yeah, just exit out.
So you went through here,
I went to the camera.
no, and then you went, just finding the camera.
It's on the next page.